So this is the tactical analysis for the defensive side for our tournament team. So have a look at all the plays, all the structures, that kind of thing. So when we're in our defensive shape, it actually changes. So instead of the 3-4-1-2, it actually changes to a 5-2-3. So a 1-5-2-3. We've got one goalkeeper, 5 defenders, which is obviously the 3 centre backs, but also the wing backs dropping back alongside them to play as proper full backs. The 2 defensive centre midfielders in front of those, and then our attacking midfielder and our 2 strikers create a line of 3 forwards, which is our first line of defence. So the 1-5-2-3. So here you can see the Netherlands against Spain in the World Cup. Netherlands in blue with the circles around them, and they're playing from the right hand side of the screen to the left. You can see the white player in the square is the one with the ball, so it's one of the centre backs who's stepped up. So the first line of defence is our front 3. The 2 widest of those 3 are the strikers. They've actually split to look after the full backs, and the one in the middle is the attacking midfielder. So for the tournament, Nina, TJ, whoever plays that position. In behind them, you've got the 2 centre midfielders, and their job then is to control that central column. You can see they're both inside the centre circle, making it really difficult and forcing play out wide around the outside. It also allows them to go man-to-man on the opposition's midfielders. And then you can see the back line of 5 defenders, the 3 centre backs and the 2 wing backs, all starting as a strong 5. Because there's 5 people, that allows the centre backs to step into midfield, and it still leaves 4 people covering the space. Okay, so if we have a look at the front 5, the front 3 are circled, like I've just said. So you've got the 2 strikers pulling wide so that they're looking after the opposition fullbacks, and you've got the attacking midfielder who's probably the first one to go in press. In behind those, you can see the 2 centre midfielders, and they're almost immediately up against 2 white players that they're just going to go man-to-man marking for. So it's quite a difficult initial shape for the opposition to play through because we're quite tight to them. The back 5 then, you can see here, the starting position is pretty much in a straight line so that there's full coverage of the pitch. There's hardly any spaces in between. And then because the wing backs who are playing as full backs will often have players to mark, the opposition's out and out wingers, it means sometimes it'll be one of the centre backs who has to step into midfield to win the ball, but we'll have a look at that a bit later on. And again, you need to be narrow and compact. Have a look at that shape there. All 10 outfield players are within that square. So that square is probably covering 2/3 of the width of the pitch, so from one side of the centre circle to the touchline. So that's really compact width-ways. And in terms of length or depth, from the front 3 to the back 5, I would say that's only, 20-25 yards, pretty much the same depth of the centre circle. So really, really compact, which forces mistakes and tries to trap the opposition into one side of the pitch. Okay, so in order to understand our defensive organisation, synchronised movements, there are 5 basic patterns of play, and some of them I'll go over quickly for this presentation. But we need to be defending on the front foot, so that means ready to intercept, ready to win the ball and start those counter-attacks. We need to be able to force the play into areas that we want. So allow the opposition centre-backs to have the ball because they're only going to go long, or they'll try and pass into midfield, and that's when our midfield pressing comes in, and we can try and nick the ball in really dangerous areas around the centre circle. We've got a mixture of zonal and man-to-man marking, especially with those defenders, that back 5. We'll have a look at how to defend against the direct ball, so the long ball over the top, and how to prevent counter-attacks. So that defensive transition from when we've had the play, we've had possession, maybe we've sort of had a cross that the goalkeeper's caught. How do we get back in time to stop the opposition from counter-attacking? Okay, so defending from the front. So when we're out of possession, every player on the pitch is a defender. So we need to quickly reorganise and get in a defensive shape to make it difficult for the opposition. So that happens by the strikers splitting to cover the opposition fullbacks. Our attacking midfielder goes man-to-man with the opposition's defensive midfielder, because most teams we play against will play a 4-3-3. And then our defensive centre midfielders can go man-to-man marking on the opposition's midfielders. So in midfield, we're going to match up 3 against 3. Okay, so have a look at here at the front 3, how they're defending and limiting the passing options. So you can see the white player on the ball is actually their defensive midfielder. He's got two centre-backs that are split behind him, and then you've got the full-backs which are pushed on. So the two strikers in blue with the circle, you can see they split and they get in a position where they can look after the full-backs if the ball gets switched, and they can chase them down, or the centre-backs if they play it to them. So you can see that it's quite tight in there. And then in behind them, the two players not circled in blue are the two defensive midfielders who can also go man-to-man and really squeeze that space. And we see that here with the midfield pressing. As soon as that ball goes to the other midfielder, that person circled is one of the defensive midfielders who's chased them down. And you can see the other centre midfielder circled who's marking the other player. The implications for us means that instead of our midfielders screening our backline, it means the backline are a bit more exposed, but because there's 5 of them there, one of them will often be the first player to step out and offer that coverage there. If you have a look at the back 5 shape, again, starting position very much zonal, all got a zone across the pitch to keep it nice and tight and not have any of those spaces, but somebody has to go to the ball at some point. Again, whole team compactness, you can see there, this is actually a good shot. You can see all 10 outfield players, obviously the goalkeeper's out of shot, but he would probably be on the edge of his box ready to sweep. You can see the white player with the square around them about to kick the ball, and from our front line of 3 forwards at the front of the centre circle to the back line of our back 5, the back of the centre circle. So the entire team really compact in the space of about 20-25 yards. This forces the opposition to not be able to play through us, so they'll probably play the long ball over the top. And if we can force that, we're expecting it, we can deal with it. Okay, so defensive play, we do have to go man-to-man marking in this system. So there's an emphasis on the man-to-man marking, which puts maximum pressure on the opponents, denies them space, denies them time, forces mistakes, basically. So this requires players to step out of their lines to get close to the opposition. So the midfielders might have to step out into the front line. The centre-backs might have to step out into midfield. So all midfielders go man-to-man marking. Centre-backs have to follow their opponents into midfield, so you can't just stay in that comfort zone of being in a line of 3. One of you will have to step into midfield. The other defenders then have to cover the spaces zonally, so from the line of 5, if one steps out, the other 4 plug those gaps. And we're attempting to intercept and tackle. An interception means that the opposition's momentum's going towards our goal and our momentum goes towards theirs, so that's better. But failing that, we make sure that we put tackles in. Okay, so it's the attacking midfielder who initiates the setup point. They're probably going to be the highest player, and they're going to be the first one to start chasing the ball down. As soon as that happens, we all follow. So the 3 circled in this one is the 3 centre midfielders. So you can see the left of the 3 is the attacking midfielder who's put pressure on their defensive midfielder. And then the one on the ball is another one of the opposition's midfielders, and our defensive midfielders chase them down. Centre-back tracking then. So because our midfield is a little bit exposed, it does mean that the centre-backs have to step in midfield. So they have to track their defenders. If you have a look at the player on the ball, that's a striker who's about to get the ball into his feet, and you can see the centre-back is as tight as he can be, right up his backside, giving him no room, no space. So the only thing he can do with the ball is play it backwards again. And in case there's a little layoff, you can see the other centre-back, the left-sided centre-back here, nearest the bottom of the screen, ready to go onto that white player as well. If you have a look at the left wing-back who's playing left-back, looking across the line every time, who's plugging those gaps, and you can see the other circle defenders starting to come across to plug those gaps zonally. It does mean there will be some yo-yoing. So the player circled nearest to the bottom of the screen, number 4, he's just stepped out into midfield to close that space down, but then the ball's gone from to the other side of the pitch, to the opposition's left-hand side. So now another defender's stepping out, so number 4 steps back in. So you see that yo-yoing that we've worked on time and time again. And again, the idea is to deny time, deny space, force them to play back into their fullbacks. And you can see that circle player near the ball, that's the right-sided centre-back. So for us, that might be Chelsea, it might be Chivy, right up the defender's backside, forcing them to play it back again. And you can see the other circle defenders are trying to cover that space vacated. So that would be Nicole, Sarah Carson, again Shivy, whoever it may be, sliding across to cover those gaps. And we need defensive fluidity. So if that centre-back is chasing high, then the other players know they need to go and close that gap, so they'll drop in. So we get the yo-yoing, we get the screening, the sliding, all of those terms. So zonal and man-to-man marking then. So across the defensive line, we need to employ a mixture of zonal. That means each player has a space to defend, and man-to-man marking, each player has an opponent to mark. So the starting position for the 5 players is zonal. We've all got a space. Communication is key, because if you're stepping out, somebody else has to drop back in. So that communication needs to be really clear. And the idea is to deny the opponent space and time, and then we need to make sure that there's coverage, that we're plugging those gaps when one of our teammates steps into midfield. So zonal starting position, you can see the 5 there. There's the left wing back who's going nearest to the ball. So in behind them, the left-sided centre-back has got 2 jobs. One is to cover the left flank in case the player on the ball beats our left wing back, and then he'll have to come across and win the ball. But his other job is to look after that runner. You can see the white player is about to run towards the ball. So the left-sided centre-back also needs to be ready to step out. So always got those 2 jobs, and you can see the other 3 players in the line. So the ball, in this case, did go infield to the white player. So that means our left-sided wing-back needs to drop back into the space, and our left-sided centre-back comes to press the ball. So that's what we mean by the yo-yoing. When one player is high but then drops in, and the player next to him then goes high. So I guess it's like waves, or yeah, however you want to phrase it. So here the wing-back and centre-back movement. Now it's the wing-back's job, who's got 2 jobs. One is to look after his player, the other one is to fill that gap vacated by the left-sided centre-back who's pressuring the ball. Have a look at the other 3 players. You can see now, because that pass is about to go backwards from the white players, the other 3 centre-backs are about to squeeze, because as soon as we force the opposition to play backwards, we steal 5 yards. We sprint out and catch their striker offside. You can see their body shape, they're on the front foot, they know that pass is going backwards and they're about to charge out. And we see it here. As soon as that ball has gone backwards, those other 3 defenders have stolen 2 or 3 yards, maybe even 5, and the white striker is now offside. Because the ball's being moved, that left-sided centre-back will drop back in now and make that line. And again, when it goes to the other side, we see the whole thing again. The left-sided centre-back, left-sided wing-back have dropped back in, and now it's the right-sided centre-back putting pressure on the ball, and the right-sided wing-back who's got 2 jobs. One is to look after the opposition's winger on the touchline, the other one is to fill the space for his mate. And we've also got the other arrow, which is the central centre-back, Nicole or Shivy, who's ready to go across and slide across and plug that gap. Again, you do need to track your runners, so once the ball's gone and the attacker starts to run, this is where it becomes man-to-man. This is probably the biggest difference for our tactics this year, making sure that we're following the players and chasing back. And again, you see, we've got that line of 5 straight away. So the yo-yoing, it's zonal, it's man-to-man, it's a mixture of everything. Okay. Another thing that might happen then is the direct ball. So we might have some teams who just play long ball. So when we're pushing high, we're going to be susceptible to that long ball over the top. We need to be prepared for it and to nullify it. So we need to decide, is there any pressure on the ball or no pressure on the ball? Because that'll make a difference to where we go. Our body shape, so we need to be side on, ready to race backwards towards our own goal, not standing square, just facing forward. And we've also always got the offside trap that we can play. And I haven't listed it there, but obviously the goalkeeper as a sweeper keeper playing on the edge of a box so that Danny can come and clear the ball. So here you can see the white player on the ball, and there's no pressure on them. Because there's no pressure, it means he can get his head up and he can ping a 50, 70-yard ball over the top. If there was pressure, it's probably going to be more of a shorter pass, and that means we can squeeze high. So here you can see it's just launched the ball in that square, and look at the body shape of the blue defenders. 4 out of the 5 are already side on and already on their way, chasing towards our goal, trying to kill that space in behind us. So we're forcing the opposition to play long, knowing that we're going to race and win it. The only defender who's not is the one who's being attracted to their player. But all the other 4 are side on, ready for the race. In this situation, again, there's no pressure. But we can have a look at the offside trap. So you can see there's no pressure on the ball, sorry. The attacking midfielders too far away. That will happen at times. So that means he's got time to get his head up and play the pass. If you have a look on the right hand side of the screen where the white striker has already started to make their move, they're waiting for that ball over the top. The two blue defenders can see it and they're just going to step up. So all they do is say hold your line, step, whatever the communication may be, 2 yards together, perfect line, and there's an offside trap, meaning that the ball carrier can't play the ball now. So we've denied them one of those options, which means he's now going to have to go sideways rather than over the top of us. Okay, the other one then, the defensive transition. It's inevitable that we're going to lose the ball. Our attacks, we're not going to score every one, they'll break down, we'll turn over possession. This offers the opposition a counter-attacking opportunity because we're quite high, and then we need to get our defensive shape back. So there's kind of 3 stages to it. 1, can we regain possession in 5 seconds? If we can sprint and chase that ball and win it in 5 seconds, brilliant, because then we've regained possession in dangerous areas in our attacking third. If not, then we just drop back and we set up for the counter-attack. We're always going to have a safety net shape at the back, so that's the back 3 and the defensive midfielder forming a diamond. And then if they do get through those first 2 lines or that first line of defence and they start running at us, we just defend the 18-yard box. So here you can see the 3 strikers circled. So they've just had a turnover of possession. The 3 strikers are looking at the ball. They're looking to win it back. Can we win it back early? If you look at the other blue players, they're not interested in winning the ball back. They're trying to regain the shape. So the 3 strikers, 5 seconds, win the ball back. The 4 midfielders, actually 3 midfielders and a centre-back, get back into shape, get back into position. So that's probably the first thing. Can we win it back quickly? If not, drop back, get the shape. The safety net shape I mentioned then, this is the 3 centre-backs and one of the defensive midfielders. Have a look again how deep that central centre-back is, whether it's Nicole or Shiv. It's a real deep line. It allows the 2 side centre-backs, the left-sided and the right-sided, whether it's Chelsea and Sarah or Shivy possibly playing one of those 2, it allows them to look after the wide areas, but the central one creates that depth. And there's always a defensive midfielder, probably Lauren, but also it could be Ali or Chantel, being that first point of defence so that they can go and challenge for the ball. And you can see here, because it's a good shape, they've only got 1 striker chasing it against 4, and we just regain possession really easily, and we're on the attack again. And it becomes wave after wave of attack, which is really demoralising for the opposition. If they do get through us and start running at us with numbers, so you can see here there's quite a lot of white players with their momentum going forwards and the ball carrier in the square, we just deny them any space behind us. So we can kill the space, we can use the 18-yard line as our springboard. So they're running at us, and have a look at the body shape of all the blues. All they want to do is move back into that space to keep the ball in front of them, making sure that they don't get in behind us, because then it becomes a bit panicky. Keep them in front of us, make them pass, force the mistake. So they run back first of all to kill the space, as do the midfielders in front of them. And then you use the 18-yard line as a springboard. So this is the same movement from the previous shot. 3 seconds later, they've hit the 18-yard line, and that's almost like a springboard then to bounce and start pressing the ball. So we know that gives us an offside line that we all can see, so we don't need to go any further. That helps with the communication. It also means we're not just going to keep dropping and dropping and dropping and giving them a free shot. We drop to the 18, then it's full pressure and force an error, and obviously the goalkeeper ready to come for any little through ball there. So our defensive patterns of play, in order to develop that understanding, we're defending from the front. So that's the 3 strikers, the 3 front players, the 2 strikers who split and look after the fullbacks, and the attacking midfielder who pushes into that line. That means we can force the play to the centre-backs. Centre-backs aren't normally the best footballers. They'll either try and pass into midfield, where our midfield pressing can try and steal it, or they'll just play it long, and then we can comfortably gather that up. A mixture of zonal and man-to-man marking, especially with our back 5, sorry. How to defend the direct ball. So having a look at that body shape, ready to race for the ball over the top. Is there pressure on the ball? If not, then prepare for the ball over the top. And the counter-attacks, that defensive transition. We're always going to have the safety net of our back 3 being at the back of the centre circle with one of our defensive midfielders just in front of them. and if they do get through, we use the 18-yard line as our springboard to, we can drop to there and then no further, then we're putting pressure forwards. Hopefully that helps.